And I've got a funny little story there too. I had flown over with a guy in it was on a kind of a military plane. In fact, it was a prop job. And it took forever. I mean, we took off out of New Jersey and run, all the way to Newfoundland, and then they filled up with gas again, and one place went to Prestwick, Scotland, and the other plane kept going right directly into Frankfurt. So we get to Frankfurt, and most of them were going to stay in Germany, so they got off. Well, there's just two of us going to France. This captain, who was 36 years old, and I thought he was old as the devil. I was 22 yet. And anyhow, we had to get on a plane. Well, the Army put us on a Lufthansa flight, first class in those days. And Paris isn't that far from Frankfurt. They started serving us a cocktail while we were still ascending. And then they kept bringing, about a 3-course meal they served on this first class. They kept just bringing the food one after another. And we were on our dessert on the way into Paris. So we get to Paris, and this guy was an adjutant general guy, so he knows the system as far as administration is concerned. And they have these guys at the, in transit port authorities in different locations. So we got off the plane, and we had to go over to catch a train. We were supposed to go and catch this train. So we went to the train station in Paris, and old Paul, the captain, went up and he talked to the guy. He said, "How do they know we're coming to this place in France? And you have to notify them, don't you?" And the sergeant says, "Yeah, we notify them." He said, "Sarge, wait until tomorrow, and we'll be back. And then you can notify them." So he said, "Okay," and we didn't care. So Paul and I went over to a Litry hotel. It was an old hotel the Army had taken over there, probably right after the war. And we got in a room, and it had these high windows and high doors and a lot of glass. And there were just 2 single twin beds in there. So Paul says, "Well, let's go see the city," when he knew a little bit about Paris. So we went up to the, what do you call it now? Well, the Moulin Rouge and all that is in Paris. Someplace. And we went up there. And we walked the streets, and looked at all the supposedly risque stuff. But we were doing a lot of walking. And we had we'd written down the address of the hotel. So we did a lot of walking up there, and we headed back. I don't know what time it was, maybe 2 or so in the morning. And we get in the hotel, and we both get undressed, we get in bed, and all at once I heard, he was moaning and groaning and yelling. I thought, what the hell's wrong with him? So I got up and turned the light on. He had a Charlie horse in both legs. So I whipped back the covers to help. And I was rubbing his legs, like this, trying to get that out and work the Charlie horses out. And old Paul raised up and he says, "I hope nobody's looking in those windows, they'll get the wrong idea here." So the next day, went back and got our train ticket to Poitiers. Now it's Portiers. Piottiers. Well, we thought, we translated that into English to Poitiers or something. Poitiers. So we kept on this train. The guy said it was quite a way, so we didn't get excited. After we'd been on quite a while, we started acting to people, Poitiers, we're working. And I don't know why, but nobody spoke English in the compartment we were in. And we kept looking out the window every time we stopped the train and say, kept doing that, we kept, and this one woman says, Poitiers. Poitiers. She says, ah, Poitiers. We said, yeah, Poitiers. So then we knew the city name. And so we got there and signed in. And Paul decided, I don't know, they told us to go to get a BOQ room and do all this stuff. And Paul said, first stop is the Class 6 store, that's the liquor store in the military. So we're there, and Paul bought a case of gin, 12 bottles of gin, and 1 bottle of vermouth. I said, what is that for, Marty? And then he went to the post exchange and bought a fruit set, you know, a container and little glasses for his martinis. And so we went back to the room and we got all straightened out, but then he went back in the evening and he asked if I wanted a martini. Well, I found out why he got so little gin, vermouth with his gin, because he filled the glass nearly to the brim with gin, and then he took his vermouth thing and he says, "Oh, Red, my boy," he says, "you count." And I went 1, and on about after 2, right after halfway through 2, he jerked it back up again. Later on, I found out that his trick at a party was he'd give him a little, he just flowed, he didn't stir him, he just flowed the vermouth on the top, and everybody, you know, first martini or 2, he'd do that. And they thought it was a good mix. After that, he didn't use any vermouth at all, he just put the gin in, and nobody ever complained. So